What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Andor. I think season 1 of Andor was a well-written show with outstanding cinematography and solid acting performances across the board. And it laid the groundwork for what I think will likely become a more meaningful addition in the Star Wars universe later on. But having said that, this series is nowhere near the top of my list of my favorite Star Wars shows. I'm happy for those who love it, but we are all watching through different lenses. We all have different preferences, and that's okay. I've seen many fans crowning Andor as the best Star Wars series there's ever been, or as their personal favorite, and that's awesome. I simply don't share that sentiment. I think it's a good story with some very intriguing moments and some memorable lines, but for me, it just feels less like Star Wars than any other Star Wars show. And on one hand, I think that sort of change of pace is good, it keeps things fresh, but I prefer Star Wars stories that really take me into the galaxy far, far away and make me feel the magic. Now, I also feel that one of the things that makes Star Wars so awesome is that despite the inaccessibilities that things like the Force and starships and lightspeed present for us on Earth, it feels like a story that could actually be real, especially in another galaxy. But Andor almost just feels too earthy for me, if you will, too realistic. I do think it's going to prove to be a valuable story in the end, but overall, I feel that it lacks the mystery and mythology that pretty much every other Star Wars story has. It's the least Star Wars project there's ever been. No Jedi, no Sith, no Force really, it's just a story about everyday people. And for some, that's great, but for me, it's almost like when there aren't stormtroopers running across the screen, you might actually have to remind yourself that you're watching Star Wars, because there's often very little indication of that. Again, you just feel like this is a story that could be taking place on Earth. Now, you might be curious why I'm choosing to bring this up now after all this time. And the answer is that I never actually gave my thoughts on Andor after season 1 was over, and I still see people talking about it so much that I just decided why not give my thoughts. I'd stayed away from talking about it mostly because, as I've explained here now, it just didn't really do much for me, so I didn't feel like talking about it. Again, I think Andor is a good story, and I'm interested to see what the next season brings to the table. I thought the stuff on Coruscant with the Imperial headquarters and all that was pretty cool. I think Luthen is an outstanding character, and I think the season finale overall was awesome. All I'm saying is that season 1 didn't catapult this show into the upper echelon of my favorite Star Wars projects like it did for others. Something I think is important to point out is that, to me, there's a big difference between evaluating the quality of a story and rating a story based on personal enjoyment. I think a lot of people tend to use those concepts interchangeably, but let's just use Andor as an example. From a quality perspective, in a vacuum, take the fact that this is Star Wars out of the equation. Andor would be near the top of my list of live-action Star Wars shows because it is a very well-made show. But if I were to rank the live-action Star Wars shows based on how much I enjoy them, it would be near the bottom. And that doesn't mean I hated it, but someone's gotta finish last in every race, and for me, Andor would be in that conversation. But those are my thoughts on season 1 of Andor. I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it right now, so that is going to do it for me in this video, but let me know what you guys thought about season 1 in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, the Force will be with you always.